Hello and welcome to my world of crochet. My name is Tina and today I'm here with you for another yarn talk video. And as always, we can't talk about yarn without my faithful mug of tea. More about that one later, because since last yarn talk video, which is about 2 weeks ago, I've finished 2 projects. I've gotten a new on the hook and there are 3 projects laying there looking at me ready to get started. So it's been a busy couple of weeks. But yeah, as I said, I do have my faithful mug of tea with me today, and it's a loose tea blend called a Droomvlucht. It is from the city of Nijmegen. That is where I fetch it, at least. It's a black tea with some saffron, with some dried cornflower petals, some dried sunflower petals, and some dried strawberry leaves. So it is indeed a bit floaty, I guess, in taste. It's still quite warm. So anyhow, I finished projects, and one of them was related to the yarn haul that I posted while I was in Denmark, because this summer I had finished this, and then I didn't have enough yarn because the first front side I made was a bit too small. Potholders. I did since last add these lovely straps. And this would be the first one I made. And this, after I had the yarn haul, is number 2. I ended up being really happy that I ordered 2 skeins of the purple, because they didn't really match up in color. There was definitely a difference in the color. I'm not sure if it's even gonna be visible on camera because of the lighting difference. But there is a slight, tiny difference in the coloration. And therefore I was quite happy that I had bought 2 full skeins, because that was more or less enough to finish it off. I needed like 1.5-ish or so. So I decided I wasn't keen on trying to see if that would work out. I had more than enough of the center color, so I didn't need to get any of that. I did buy the second color here, but I had enough of it and I used the original. And then we have this sort of, I would say this, what color is this even? I should know this, but I did use my old skein plus a little bit of the new. And you can barely see the color difference in those. You would really have to know. And even then it would be really difficult to see. So that was worth finishing up the skein for that. But I am, as I said, really happy that I got the extra, and I definitely needed of the second color here. I definitely also needed a skein of that, because I genuinely just missed that last bit of the last row to finish off the color with what I had left. So now I have 2 potholders and not just 1. That I am really happy about. What am I gonna do with these? I don't know yet. I don't feel that they are good enough to sell. I think that I'd rather give them away or use them myself. So they're either gonna become a future present, or I'm going to use them myself in my own kitchen. And the latter is definitely a likelihood, because the other piece I made that here did not fit and never got a backside, I was thinking I can use this as a placemat for under, for example, a vase of flowers or something like that on my table, because the tabletop I have on my dining table is very sensitive to moist, for example, or any other thing that gets placed on it. If it has a little bit of moist, this coating that's on top goes like all light and weird. So I'm probably gonna keep them myself. That is my current thought of this. And I'm still pretty pleased, and I'm happy that I added a pair of suede straps, suede leather straps. They are from a set of suede leather straps that I got probably, I don't know, a year or 2 ago. And finally, it's the perfect use for them. So I'm really happy with how they turned out. That said, For the future edition, what I probably will be doing is, I think I'll up the hook size for the front piece, and that should probably make it match the back piece better, because what I do feel is that due to these front posts, trebles, it seems to want to indent a bit inwards, but definitely could be worse. But yeah, so the thought is if I use a bigger hook size, not much, maybe just by a half or quarter or a half bigger hook size here, then it does give me a slight bit more length, and then that will probably match the back side, because what you have is a little bit, that it is a little bit larger, though the amount of stitches match across, but it kind of then wants to curve up around. And at one side, I don't mind it at all, but at the same side, I kind of feel it should be straight flat. And if I want to make these again in the future, maybe not this color, but the same concept, what I think I want to try out then is definitely to try using 2 different hook sizes. So a smaller hook for the back side, which is just a classic granny square, and then here for the front side, a bit larger, to see if that would actually work out to make up for that difference. But if and when I'll make these again, I don't know. I'm happy with the result of how the color works up though. So it is a possibly future project, and I'll try to keep this in mind when I get there. But yeah, that was one project. The other project I finished is the rib knit beanie, and we started that on a live, and this, my friends, is how it ended up looking like. It is a long chic rib knit with finished up here at the top. It is the finished closing of this is inspired by Kelsey Knits chunky beanie, but since I'm using smaller needles, obviously I amended the stitch count. I have 80 stitches here on 6mm needles, and that is how this turned out, and I am pleased. I haven't tried it yet. I should actually try if it fits me. I expect it does. Ta-ta! It matches my t-shirt. Yep, I am pleased, definitely. I do have a little bit of yarn left of those 2 skeins. Not much, half a skein. And I don't think I can get this yarn anymore either. That is just how it is. What is that I do have 2 more skeins that I want to make another with, but that is a different color. And what I'm thinking, not finally decided, but what I was considering was to make one of this, just like I've done this, and then with the other half I've left, that would be 1 skein. 1 skein would be definitely too little to make a full with double brim. But I was thinking maybe I can do 1 round of this, 1 round of this, 1 round of this, 1 round of this, or 1 row. Maybe that will work. And then when it gets to the end, I'll just close it down, and I might even option for fewer stitches to make it smaller, so it will be more of a children's hat. That is something that's crossed my mind. But as I said, I'm not kind of finally decided on it, but I think that could be an option, because then at least I get the yarns used. The other alternative is that I do something similar, but I double strand it with, let's say, white, and then I can upsize the needles. That's actually not a bad idea. Maybe I should do that. So I like upsize it with a white skein, so I can use thicker needles, and then I can still keep changing the rows. 1 of this, 1 of this, 1 of this, 1 of this. That might actually be a good way to use the remaining of this yarn, because I'd like to give it purpose. And I do have a fair bit of random-ish white yarn in my stash, which I have 0 plans for, so that would actually that's actually a great idea. Sometimes that is what I really enjoy, talking to you guys, even though that we don't physically talk straight back and forth right now. But I feel like I am talking to you guys by making this vlog, and it gives me great ideas. I think this is definitely the way to go. But first, I'm going to make a similar beanie of this yarn, and then I'll see how much I have left. And then I think the constant change could be the option to indeed make maybe a chunkier one, but using up the yarn. This yarn is 80% acrylic, 20% wool. And it felt pretty warm when I just had it on, and I am pleased with how it ended up looking like. So here we are. One knit beanie done. And you already know now that I will be looking at starting a new one at some stage. What I did with this yarn I used my circular knitting needles, the squared ones, and then to close up I changed to my double pointed needles, bamboo sticks in this case, and that worked up pretty well. That said, I do still feel, especially when you get to the closing part of it, that this is like a roving style, not super tightly spun yarn, but it did want to split slightly. So when I wanted to close it off, so that did take extra focus from me to close it off decently. That's the only downside I have with this yarn. Further than that, it's nice and soft. It was enjoyable enough to work with. Yes, that was my finished projects. And let's jump into the projects I have currently ongoing. So my current ongoing WIPs. As always, we do start with the projects I've been working on the longest, which makes the Fleur is next on the topic board. Fleur is a Mosaic blanket. And now it's time to start working on Fleur again, because temperatures outside, with exception on like this coming few days, they are cooled down. It is getting autumn. We've had the first autumn storm. Earlier this week was really like, it was windy, it was rainy, it was really autumny. I just had other things on my schedule to not get started on this project. But this weekend, my friends, I think I should be able to get started and get back on Fleur. The next row is going to be in the cream. And I'm gonna attach the new skein by then, because I have very little left of the one that's currently attached. But yeah, we haven't worked on this for how long now? I'm sorry, there's a bit of background noise here outside because some big aircraft is passing. If you heard that, I do apologize. And if not, I guess I do have some awesome audio in the sense of it does remove background noise. But I don't know, yeah, I know why. These days, especially this weekend, they have a big Remembrance Day of the Airborne. So that is related to the Second World War. I live very close to some bridges where there was a big fight to recapture and take back from the Germans back around 1944. And they have a large remembrance here in September for the Airborne. And we have cemeteries here around from Canadians and Americans and so on. So this is the aircraft starting like to prepare for the shows and so on. So that is what I'm hearing. I do apologize. And if you heard that, well, I guess there's a little bit of culture there too, or at least some history. Yeah, so there is definitely some sort of parties and rememberings going on. There's a big concert even as well, if I'm not remembering wrong, on one of the bridges. But this is Fleur. And as I said, it's finally getting to be cold enough to work on a big blanket like this again. And it is definitely going to have lots of my attention, because I am behind on my goal, at least. Or I need to work harder on it to make it. And, you know, I'm just gonna work on it and we will see how quickly I can catch up, or if I can catch up at all. But I really want to finish this winter, and ideally before New Year's. So the next project, I started on this in Denmark, but I didn't finish it yet, is a new bucket hat. I was working on it during the live. What I had finished was the top here, which is a bunch of single crochets. Then there is this edge here where you have a bunch of slip stitches before another row of single crochets. In the single crochets behind those slip stitch rows. And then we started doing the granny stitch around with different colors. We have the dark yellow or the sun yellow here, which is named Soul. That is the colorway, I do believe 40. Then we have Canario, which is the lighter yellow. And we have Latte, which is like this cream white or cream yellow-ish color. And I'm just doing these. What I did do, because I've done this specific pattern before, which is a Krølle Bølle bucket hat or Krølle Bølle summer hat. I used the same crochet hook for all of them. I had to upsize to meet gauge. But I felt this bucket hat side was kind of like going out like this on the other one. Not bad, but just a bit. And I thought next time I'm gonna make this, what I'm gonna try is I will crochet hooks down a bit, size down for these granny stitches, and then go back when I go out to do the brim. And then maybe that will fix what I think it was. And so far it seems to be working, but we are of course not home yet. So that is what I did. I am carrying the colors, so that is why you see 3 strands coming through. I didn't weave in some of the ends yet. And what I'm most pleased about is actually while I do carry the colors, and you can see it's a bit thicker where I carry the colors, it's not that super visible. So in that sense, I am rather pleased so far with the results. And right now it's more like a hat for a Jew, because it's not, it needs some more rows, right, before we are getting there. But I like the colors. It's really sun fresh. So yeah, that is a project that I will be looking at, working on, and hopefully finishing for next week's yarn talk video. The yarns I'm using is the Linda Hobby 8/8 cotton. And I really like this yarn because it is a quite soft cotton, actually. I think it is garment friendly, definitely hat friendly, but I also think it's regular garment friendly, like tops or the like. So I kind of want to start see if I could make some of those in the future. I'm definitely open for that thought. I've been using a 4.5 and a 4mm, so I'm using the 4.5 for the single crochet bit, and so the part on the brim, but the sides and the granny stitch part, I'm only using my 4mm. I think the pattern designer even says 3.5, but if I use a 3.5mm, it's way, like I crochet way too tight to make that work with the gauge and the sizing and so on. So that's why I hook sized mine. And honestly, I just think it looks nice and it works up. So that's the most important part. Don't always just blindly follow whatever the pattern designer says, but follow whatever feels right and kind of makes it match the needs you have. I am having some projects in mind to get started. As I said, I have 3 projects standing here next to me wanting to get done or get started on. And one of them we already shortly spoke about, which is the Lena yarn, or the Lena yarn I have here from the Wibra, which is just 2 skeins, and I need to knit a rib knit beanie of this. So I need to get started on that at some stage, just, you know, when I feel like doing something. It could be that I get started this week. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's in the cards. Then I have a project, which is a very simple project. It's definitely not screen friendly because it is 100% black yarn. I have some old trousers that I don't fit anymore. I haven't used them much, and I gave them to my mom this spring because she can fit them, or she could. Now they're too big, but they have a little place where you can put a strap or a belt in. But it is quite thin. and any of the belts she has are too thick or too wide. And then I thought, oh, but I think I might have those which was used for them, which is actually this, and it's so old and worn out that it's kind of falling apart. And this would sort of semi-fit, but on the edge of being too wide as well. And now it's just old. So it's kind of like, you know, if you look at it, you can see it's falling apart. Even when I'm here, I can see black small pieces falling on the table. So it's definitely not friendly for being actively used. So the conclusion is we need something that's a little bit smaller than this, but it has to be flexible. And I was like, oh, I like have a skein of black yarn at home. I'll crochet you one. Like, so what I'm thinking is I'm gonna make a row of foundation double crochets, and it has to be the same length of this, and that's it. Done, finished. Yee-hee. Everybody happy. At least that was my idea. So that is still what I'm gonna do. And first I was thinking, oh, I have a skein of black cotton yarn somewhere, I can use that. But the fact is, some of this cotton yarn I do have plans for. I kind of already have pre-plans for this yarn. So I was like, yeah, should I order some new yarn to do this? That was my first thought. And I was like, nah, I probably shouldn't, because I really need to shop my stash. And I already have a yarn order incoming, which I needed for something else. Fair enough. That's just how it's gonna be. So yeah, what then? Okay, I'll look at my stash and see what I have. And I didn't even get to look in my stash actually, because then I suddenly realized, hey, I have a skein of yarn, which I have one skein of. I've never used it before. I got it in a lucky bag, or like this random, it was a Facebook deal, and it was a part of this bag that I got. And there's only this one skein, and it's black. Perfect. So I found it, and it's a bit messed up, but it was also a bit messed up when I got it. It is the online line Java, so line 164 Java, trend collecting. I have never used this yarn before. Online line 164 trend collecting Java. It is 67% cotton and 33% viscose. In fact, it's also mercerized cotton, or mercerized cotton. It is very clearly spun, and it is 50 grams skein, so 1.75 ounces to 158 meters, so that's like 165-ish yards maybe. They recommend 2.5 to 3 millimeter knitting needles, probably a little bit more crochet hooks, so we are probably into, I think, the 3.5 millimeter, or maybe just the 3.25. I don't know. I'm gonna have a look at that. Depending on the size I'm going to test out if we're gonna do the foundation double crochet, or if we might option for a different style. If I could make some sort of shell, I don't know. But I'm gonna make a build of this. It's gonna be enough. I'm gonna make it to be enough, because it's a perfect project for a skein of yarn, and then it's gone from my stash. And right now it's just been looking at me being like, should I go into my scrap stash because you only have this one, and what can I use it for? It's a perfect project. So that is a project, and I need to get this done within the next 2 weeks because I want to have it done before I go to Denmark. So that is my next cozy project for randomsies. Then also, when I was working on the Krølle Bølle bucket hat during my live this week, Wednesday, we had a poll going on because I want to start on a new shawl. I do like always having a shawl on the crochet hook. I do enjoy making shawls, and we had a poll, and I had given you 4 options. For those that were on the live, had the opportunity to go in and vote for the yarn I was going to use. And I had 2 different yarn art flower cakes. I had a Stenli platter of Platy Stenli Royal Candy, and I had a Stenli Muffin Mini Lux. The poll ended up choosing the Muffin Mini Lux in the colorway 1651, which is this absolutely freaking gorgeous cake. It's purple, and that goes into lighter purples, and it's almost like a pinkish purple here in the center. And it has a running thread of silver going through as well. This is a solid silver thread going through. That is the lyrics part. It's 90% cotton, 90% acrylic and 10% lyrics. Further than that, it's 250 grams, so it's an 8.8 ounce cake, this, and it's 1,000 meters or 1,093 yards. They recommend a 3 to 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. Last time I used a 3.75 millimeter, which I might use again this time around, or I will up it to a 4. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't fully decided. The benefit of doing the 3.75, and I think it worked out nicely when I made the Pure Tea Shawl this summer, is that I don't have any other projects for that crochet hook, so it can stay in the project crate with this. That would be the ideal, because the 4 millimeter I use for Fleur, and we are going to start working more on Fleur again. So yeah, that is pretty much it. It's a Stenli cake, and I am definitely looking forward to start on this shawl. After we selected the cake, we were starting to look at the shawls I was going to make, and I've always said that I wanted to make all of the patterns from Ines, that is the owner of Red Teapot Atlier, and she designed some absolutely gorgeous shawls. We had a few that was an option, but I ended up selecting them away because it needed longer yards. So this would be too small of a cake to finish the pattern. So those automatically got removed from the options. And another requirement was it had to be a shawl I hadn't made yet. So it had to be a pattern I've not yet done. We ended up being able to choose between 4 different patterns. And of those 4 different patterns, the winner was the LapsangTea Shawl, which I'm going to be starting on here this coming week. I'm not sure if I have time to start already this weekend. I've not decided that yet. But in any case, I will start, worst case, I'll start on this on Monday when I will be live again. I'll be going live Monday at around 2-ish p.m. Central European time. So that's around 8 a.m. In the US, if you're in the Eastern time zone. Again, this depends on if I don't sleep over, work, etc. But that is the overall plan. And this time I'm going to start from the outer edge and work inside. Last time I did the center pull and I almost had yarn bath towards the end. So I think I'm going to see if I will have more pleasure working this from the outside. And this is going to go straight on the yarn spindle, because it is solidly woven up, wound up. So I think it would work absolutely fine on the yarn spindle, as well as some of you guys told me that this yarn do seem to work nice on the yarn spindle. So I think that is definitely what I'm going to be doing. I will have to remove this outer edge and put it a bit under there to put it on the spindle and start from the outer edge, which we can see the beginnings are of right there. And then hopefully sometime I'll have the LapsangTea Shawl finished and can show it to you guys. That is definitely the next goal. That was pretty much it. I have to crochet a small thin belt. I have to start the LapsangTea Shawl. We have another hat to knit. We're going to see what we're going to do with the leftovers of those knit hats once I'm done. And I'm going to be ready to start on Fleur again. And hopefully I'll have the hat that I'm currently working on also finished for next week's yarn haul. So there's lots of things to do coming up, and there is lots of things happening as well. So hopefully I will be able to share some exciting news with you guys soon. Stay tuned to this channel, and therefore don't forget to subscribe. Hit the like button if you do like talking about crochet and yarns. Then I'm going to say thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button. Everything supports, it's free. And I'll see you back definitely for sure on Monday for live, unless something unexpected happens. Bye.